Okay, well, welcome everybody back to the Descartes Peoplevox YouTube channel. We have a very exciting and interesting discussion for you today with a Peoplevox customer, a Peoplevox partner, and a Peoplevox employee. I'll let them all introduce themselves momentarily, but today's discussion is going to be about warehouse operations, integrations for multi-channel selling, and building a business within a certain niche and sector online. So first, I'd like to pass over to Deborah Challis, who is the general manager of the Yellow Bulldog business. Deborah, if you'd like to say hello and introduce yourself.
Managing Director of Yellow Bulldog Limited, and I'm also a director within Rubber Road Limited, which is a partner company.
There you go. And next up, we've got Richard Davies, the Utordo business. Richard, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do, please?
Certainly. Thanks, Leo, for inviting me. My name is Richard Davies. I'm Managing Director of Utordo. I've got 25 years experience in the logistics and supply chain industry. Currently, my focus is on leveraging technology to optimize business data flows and processes, particularly in the realm of e-commerce.
Fantastic. Well, we'll come back to you, Richard, in a bit. And finally, Adam, my colleague, it'd be great to introduce yourself as well, please.
Sure. So, yep, Adam Larkins. I head up CS for the Peoplevox product, and I also look after Deborah's account. My day-to-day role is to help customers get the best out of the software and facilitate conversations between various partners and like we're seeing today.
Brilliant. Well, thanks all for being here. Deborah, it'd be great to start with you, if we may. I think we've got a pretty long-term working relationship going back almost half a decade now. It would be great to hear from you a little bit more about your business and almost a story so far of building the brand, building the company up to where we are today.
So the company turned 10 last year, so we celebrated our 10th anniversary. Was started by two entrepreneurs, Matt Precious and Ben Grant. Started by accident over a bottle of wine. They were both working for Game in Australia. They're from the UK but moved to Australia together. Worked as directors for Game. Game unfortunately didn't survive in Australia, so Ben and Matthew saw that merchandise was the way to go. Video games were physically on the way out, downloads were coming in. So for somebody to buy a product as opposed to buying a physical game, that was the way to go. And that's where the business was started. And Yellow Bulldog was actually started by accident. Matthew was doing some consultancy work for an Irish company. And they had a lot of returned stock that they didn't know what to do with. So Matthew very quickly said, "Oh, send it to our warehouse. We'll take it off your hands." We didn't have a warehouse, by the way, and we'll sell it for you. So he very quickly made some calls, and our first warehouse was a garage, and it was literally the grottiest garage. I can send you some pictures of you to show you how small and appalling it was. And we had about 8 pallets of stock arrived, and we decided to sell that stock. I wasn't involved in the business at that time. There was Matthew, Ben, and another guy called Dave, who's still with us. Dave listed it on eBay and it sold, and that's where Yellow Bulldog started. And like I said, that was 10 years ago. We've now got 40 staff in Yellow Bulldog and 80 staff across Yellow Bulldog and Rubber Road. So Rubber Road designs and has manufactures and the stock, which is all fully licensed with some of the most major names in the gaming and the video game and TV and movie industry. So we get fully licensed merchandise. We design that product and sell it to retail across the world, and Yellow Bulldog, who sells it online via Just Geek, which is one of our trading sites. We have a trade site called Numskull Trade, and we also distribute for the Sega store. So we are the Sega store for the UK and Europe.
Okay, so there's many channels, many facets, but clearly like a really loved niche with an audience that is very passionate about the product as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
When it comes to building out that operation, can you tell us a little bit about the fulfillment and logistics side? Do you have one warehouse or multiple sites? How does that all come together?
So I started, apart from the garage that we had, we grew out of that. I think we moved into the 2 garages before I left the civil service. Matthew asked a favour and said, could I join the company for 6 months to help him build a bigger warehouse, move up to the northeast where we are now, and would I go on a 6 months to come and help him do that? So I left my job in the civil service. I'd never set foot in a warehouse in my entire life prior to this, by the way. I was in the legal field, never done anything in retail, and so with the help of Google, I set up a warehouse, and we now have a warehouse in the UK, but we also have third-party warehousing in Europe and the US. So the warehouse in the UK, we bought, it's in Jarrow where we are now, completely empty. Didn't know where to start. Matthew had the idea, said, wouldn't it be great if we could just scan, sorry, that's mine, scan product, have everything barcoded, and all the dispatch automated, connected with it. And we were like, does this exist? Is this even a thing? So we just Googled it, Peoplevox appeared, and that's how really we started. We genuinely just contacted Peoplevox and said, we've got this warehouse. We were doing everything on paper by this point. We had sheets of paper, and we had we just signed up with a very large IT company who was our marketplace management system, because at the time we were selling on Amazon, on eBay, on our website, we were just hitting the road everywhere, selling wherever we could, not really strategizing in terms of what we were doing, and we needed help in the warehouse. So yeah, we contacted, and I think we've been working with Adam from almost day one. From what I can remember, it was Colin initially who got us started. And we still rely on Colin for different integrations as we did with Utordo. But Adam, more or less, very early on, we were working with you, from what I remember. You've been with us from the early days.
It's been a good 4 years. I know that much since I've been with the business. So yeah, maybe I've made it feel longer.
What's the development been, or the transformation been over that time?
I think business has changed a lot. I think since we've been working together. There's been various different challenges over the last few years, changes in the way that the business is selling. So we just had to adapt to those. Obviously, there's been economic pressures as well. And part of my role in working with Deborah and the team is just to kind of make sure we're moving with those issues and kind of making sure we're going in the right direction, choosing the right solutions, and kind of adjusting to those situations. And also that day-to-day kind of evolution of the warehouse, new products, different products coming in, different processes, ways of kind of streamlining and making sure we're most efficient as we can be.
Yeah. And Deborah, you mentioned you're selling on multiple channels. Can you give us the range? So obviously you have the Just Geek website as a starting point, but where else can we?
Well, yeah, I mean, we were, and I think that was back in the day. We were literally selling anywhere we could. So, and that's where Peoplevox was fantastic for us, because we were selling on all different marketplaces, but we had one solution in terms of our warehouse. And I think the biggest the biggest positive impact that Peoplevox had, and still does, is that we haven't really increased our warehouse staffing since we started with Peoplevox. If anything, we've got less. So when we first started with Peoplevox, we saw an instant efficiency saving. So we were doing things in half the time. So the business grew. So within the first, I would say, 3 to 4 years of having Peoplevox, the business almost trebled in size, and we didn't do any changes to staffing at all. So we were able just to accommodate all of those additions. And it was very much a scattergun approach in the early days to see which marketplaces took off. So we were selling on eBay, Amazon, OnBuy, God, there was, and we were selling on Amazon all over the world. It wasn't just Amazon UK. We had about 6 or 7 different Amazon accounts. And then it wasn't till, and like I say, we were using we weren't with Utordo at that stage. We were using a larger marketplace management system, and we ended up, it was so complicated. And we really lost control of marketplaces that we were selling on, profit. We were making fees that we were paying out. And when we sat down and looked at the books, we were just paying out so much to so many different third parties that we took stock a few years ago and said, we need to really like pull back now and focus on where we're making the most money and driving the most traffic, and focus on our brands. We've got a number of different brands which sit within Just Geek. So we've got Tubs, Quarter Arcades, Power Idols, etc. And we wanted to really focus on those brands. So that's where we reached out again to Adam to say, what can we do? We want to get rid of this beast that we've created. What can you do to help? And that's where Utordo came in. So Adam said, actually, there's a guy I know called Richard, local guy, very appealing to us, because I think we'd kind of lost our way a little bit dealing with very large corporations who just see us as a very small cog in their huge operation, and that's where we found that difficult. If we wanted anything done, or that flexibility, we like to be able to adapt. Peoplevox did that, and he recommended Utordo to be able to do the same for us with our marketplace management solution, and that's kind of where Richard came in.
Yeah. Well, Richard, what an introduction.
Yeah, what an intro.
It'd be great to hear from your perspective, coming into this sort of situation with the business, and as a partner of ours. What did you see when you got on the phone for the first time, and then what was the project that you were able to work with Deborah on?
Brilliant. Well, I think we've got a lot of confidence in our own product, that it delivers the objectives of the clients, and I think that's part of our task, is convincing customers that we're a stable solution for the different platforms. I think coming from a big corporate application, it could appear to be risky going with a smaller setup or a smaller integrator. I think that's the initial challenge when we first spoke, Deborah, was to give Deborah and her team confidence that we could handle the number of transactions, link with all the various platforms, and have the stable integration with PVX. So that was the initial part, really, planning a smooth transition as possible. I often use the phrase that we're changing an engine on a moving car when we transition from a different provider, because it's really difficult to get the timings right. But I think it was quite a successful project. There were some complexities around bundles. So we have our own bundle application within the middleware that helps calculate stock availability based on components. And there's also an element of pre-sales, where there's a stock stored and sold in advance, but also has to deplete because there is a limited number in some of the SKUs. So yeah, it was a really interesting project. We were really excited because obviously there was a lot of known brands in there, so it gave our platform a bit more kudos. Yeah,
absolutely. And Deborah, looking at it now, I guess you've been working in this new world with an updated tech stack. It sounds like simplifying, bringing kind of efficiency, streamlining the operation was the goal. How are you positioned now, looking ahead, 2023 and beyond? What are your aspirations?
I think we've done all of the changes that we need to do, and I feel in a really good place now, how everything's knitted together. It's exactly how I would want it. We don't have any major issues, so aside from some smaller issues which we're gradually working through, I'm very, very happy with the way it is. So I certainly wouldn't be looking to make any major changes. And I think for Peoplevox particularly is if we were going to make any changes, Peoplevox is always the last one on the list that we even look at, because it works. And that's why I always say, please don't touch Peoplevox. It just works, and it makes things it makes life so much easier for us to know that that's one part of the business which just goes ahead. So yeah, the business is growing. I think for us it's about growing internationally. I know Peoplevox is an international company. We've talked before about replicating what we've got here in the US. So that's certainly something in the next, I would say 2 to 5 years, we would like to get our own warehouse. We've got third party doing that now, but I would love to get our own warehouse in the US and just replicate what we've got over there. So yeah, it's all go. Lots of aspirations.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a great time to be doing that, going global. So congratulations on the success so far, and best wishes for the plans moving forward. Thank you, Adam and Richard, for joining us today as well. Sounds like it's been a great working relationship, so hopefully many more years of the same.